My parents sent my son a big Lego set for his elementary school graduation. At first, he was thrilled, eyes lighting up as he saw all those colorful pieces. Then suddenly he froze. "Mom, what's this?" I leaned in closer and my heart stopped. I screamed inside but didn't let anyone see. I took action right away. 48 hours later, 911 was at their door. "I'm Tamara." Caleb's elementary school graduation day was supposed to be just a simple afternoon in Indianapolis. Nothing fancy in our backyard. Some folding chairs, pizza delivery from the place down the street, a few of his fifth-grade friends laughing, music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. I wanted to make it special for him, something he'd remember before heading into middle school. The package from my parents arrived right when everyone was cheering through the gifts. Big box, shiny, wrapping, red bow tied perfectly as always. The card read, "Congratulations to our dear grandson." Caleb tore it open and gasped when he saw the huge Lego set he'd been dreaming about. He sat right down on the floor, started snapping pieces together, grinning ear to ear. Then he stopped. His face went a little pale and he pointed to something under the plastic on the side of the box. "Mom, what's this?" I smiled, leaned down to look closer. Beneath the thick plastic there was a hard square edge that didn't belong on any Lego piece. My stomach dropped. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I kept my voice light. Laughed it off. "Let me check it later, buddy. Keep building." I carried the box inside, set it up high on a shelf. Came back out, kept smiling, clapping, taking pictures like everything was fine. But inside my head, everything had already changed. What do you think I did next? Did I go too far or not far enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you won't see it coming. The last car pulled away from the driveway and the house finally fell silent. I waited until Caleb was settled in his room, controller in hand, lost in the new game his friends had been raving about all afternoon. He looked content, that perfect kind of tired kids get after a day full of excitement and running around. I told him he could play for another half hour before lights out. He nodded, eyes glued to the screen, already deep in whatever level he was on. Once I heard the familiar music and sound effects starting up from behind his closed door, I headed back downstairs. The Lego box was exactly where I'd left it on the kitchen counter. I picked it up with both hands, holding it steady, and carried it through the hallway into my small home office at the back of the house. I nudged the door shut with my foot and placed the box on the desk directly under the adjustable lamp. I didn't flip on the overhead light, just the desk lamp angled low. I wanted clear visibility without making the whole thing feel like some late-night investigation. I pulled open the top drawer and took out a pair of small scissors. The factory tape was still sealing the flaps securely. I cut along the seams, carefully taking my time so I wouldn't tear anything underneath. When the top folded back completely, I removed the thick instruction manual first, then each numbered bag of pieces, stacking them in order on the side table so nothing got mixed up. The compartment was there, molded into the base tray like it belonged, but the edges didn't quite match the rest of the plastic. I pressed gently on what looked like a false panel, and it popped up with a soft click. Inside sat the device, a compact black unit no bigger than a matchbox, with a tiny glass lens on one face and a couple of thin wires leading to a flat battery attached underneath. It was secured with strips of black tape that stood out against the bright colors around it. My hand stayed steady the whole time. I took my phone out of my pocket and switched to the camera. I started with wide shots of the open box, then moved in closer. Top view, side view, angled from above to show depth. I made sure the lens caught the serial number etched on the edge and the way the wires were routed. I took more as I carefully lifted the panel higher, then again, after easing the device halfway out using the tip of the scissors so I wouldn't leave fingerprints. I laid a clean sheet of white printer paper on the desk and placed the device in the center. Additional photos against the plain background, front, back, every side. I zoomed in on the lens on the battery label on the tape holding everything together. When I was satisfied I had enough documentation, I slid the device into a clear plastic zip bag I grabbed from the supply drawer. I squeezed out the air, sealed it firmly, then sealed it a second time for good measure. I wrote the date on the bag with a black marker and folded it once before placing it inside the locked bottom drawer of my filing cabinet, right next to the folder with our important papers. I turned the key and tested the handle twice. I sat back in the chair and looked at the now empty box. The Lego bags were still sealed and organized. Whoever did this had opened a brand new set, added the device, and resealed everything to look untouched. I opened my phone one more time and ran a quick search, just the basics. Shape, size, lens, battery configuration. Within minutes, it was clear this wasn't any official Lego component. It didn't belong in any set ever. Someone had put it there deliberately. I cleared the search history, turned the phone off and on again out of habit, then set it face down on the desk. I left the office quietly and went upstairs. Caleb's door was still cracked open the way he likes it. I pushed it wider just enough to see inside. He had fallen asleep with the controller on his chest. TV paused on the game menu room, lit softly by the screen. His breathing was deep and even. I stepped in, removed the controller, gently set it on the nightstand, and pulled the blanket up over his shoulders. He didn't stir. I stood there a few seconds longer, watching him. Tomorrow he'd wake up excited to build that set. I'd have to figure out how to handle that conversation. I pulled the door almost closed again, leaving the usual strip of hallway light. Downstairs I filled a glass with water from the kitchen sink and stood looking out the window. The backyard was dark except for the glow from the neighbor's porch light. The folding chairs were scattered where we'd left them, a couple of empty pizza boxes on the picnic table. Tomorrow I'd clean everything up. Tonight I had decisions to make. Later that night I sank into the living room sofa with my phone in one hand and the laptop open on the coffee table in front of me. The house was completely quiet now, no more game sounds from upstairs, no distant traffic noise from the street. Just the soft hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen and the occasional creak of the floorboards settling. I couldn't sleep. Not yet. My brain wouldn't shut off. The only question that kept looping was simple but heavy. Why would they do this? Why would my own parents plant something like that in a gift for their grandson? I needed to understand the motive, so I let the memories surface one after another, forcing myself to look at them straight on for the first time in years. The first thing that came to mind was Norman, my dad. He has always judged people, and especially his kids, by their financial success. When I was growing up, Sunday dinners were less about the food and more about his updates on investments, retirement accounts, property values. If I brought home a good report card, he'd nod and say, "That's nice, but grades don't pay bills." When I got my first part-time job at 16, he sat me down with a spreadsheet to track every paycheck and expense. Money is security, Tamara. Lose control of it and you lose everything. Even after I moved out and started my own life, the habit continued. He'd call just to check in, and within minutes ask about my 401k contributions or whether I was maximizing Caleb's college savings. It wasn't advice, it was oversight. They always needed control over money that wasn't theirs. I pulled the blanket tighter around my shoulders. Those conversations never felt like concern. They felt like ownership. Norman couldn't stand the idea of resources existing outside his influence. They always needed to control money belonging to someone else. Next came Pamela, my mom. She was different, soft voice, warm hugs, always the one to smooth things over when Norman got too sharp. But her kindness had edges. After the divorce, she increased her visits, showing up with grocery bags or little treats for Caleb. "I worry about you handling everything alone, sweetheart. It's a lot for one person." She'd sit at my kitchen table, sipping tea, and list all the ways single parenting was challenging. "Boys need structure, discipline. Are you sure you're getting enough rest to stay patient? It sounded supportive on the surface, but every comment carried the same underlying message: I wasn't managing well enough without help. She'd praise Caleb to his face, then whisper to me later, "He's such a good boy, but he could use more stability." She positioned herself as the safety net I apparently needed. They always believed I wasn't good enough to make decisions on my own. I set the phone down for a moment and rubbed my eyes. Pamela's style was subtler than Norman's, but the goal was the same: undermine confidence, create dependence. They always thought I couldn't handle things without their guidance. The third memory was the clearest and the most painful: the trust fund. My grandfather, Norman's father, died 5 years ago and left $200,000 in a trust specifically for Caleb's future education. The will was explicit. I was the trustee, full discretion on use for school-related expenses, no access for anyone else. Norman was in the lawyer's office when it was read. I saw his jaw tighten. That evening at their house, he started, "That's a lot of money sitting there. Family resources should benefit the whole family." Pamela chimed in gently, "We're only thinking of Caleb. Unexpected costs come up." Over the years, the suggestions grew more direct. Holiday dinners turned into discussions about temporary borrowing for home repairs or car payments. "We'll pay it back with interest." Birthdays brought envelopes with ideas for investing the fund differently. They framed it as practicality, but it was entitlement. The money was Caleb's, protected for him, yet they acted like it was a shared account waiting for their approval. They never accepted anything staying out of their reach. I leaned forward, elbows on knees, staring at the dark screen of the laptop. The pattern was undeniable now. Control over finances, doubt about my parenting, resentment toward money they couldn't touch. Putting a listening device in Caleb's gift wasn't an impulse. It was a calculated step: reconnaissance to collect information, build a case, gather proof that I was failing so they could justify stepping in. For the trust fund, for influence, for whatever came next. The realization settled heavy in my chest. This was bigger than a weird gift. They were laying groundwork for something more serious. I finally closed the laptop and turned off the lamp. The room went dark except for the faint glow from the streetlight outside. I stayed on the sofa a while longer, listening to the quiet house, knowing tomorrow I'd have to start protecting us for real. The next morning, I arrived at Rachel Dunn's office earlier than most people even start their commute. I'd texted her the night before and she replied immediately with, "Come first thing." Her building was in a quiet part of downtown Indianapolis, the kind of place with secure parking and a lobby that smelled faintly of coffee from the cafe downstairs. The receptionist wasn't in yet, so Rachel met me at the door herself, keycard in hand, and waved me through to her private office at the end of the hall. The room was organized, but lived in stacks of files in color-coded folders, a few framed photos of her, with what looked like her own kids at graduation ceremonies, and a large window letting in the early sunlight. She motioned for me to take the chair across from her desk and poured me a cup of coffee from the pot on the side table without asking if I wanted one. I accepted it gratefully. My hands needed something to hold. I placed my phone on the desk between us and opened the photo gallery directly to the folder I'd created. This was hidden inside the Lego set my parents sent for Caleb's graduation gift. Rachel took the phone and began scrolling. She paused on each image, zooming in methodically, the device against the white background, the close-up of the lens, the serial number, the taped wires, the false compartment in the box tray. Her face remained neutral, the way lawyers do when they're processing information, but I saw her pause longer on the shot, showing how cleanly it had been installed. "This is a combined audio recorder and GPS tracker," she said, finally setting the phone down carefully. "Not some toy add-on. Someone modified a factory-sealed set to include this." That's what I thought. My voice came out steadier than I felt. "It's locked away now. Untouched since these photos." "Perfect. We'll get it to a forensic examiner when the time comes. Chain of custody starts with you." She made a note on her pad. "Walk me through why you believe your parents are behind this." I gave her the condensed version, the lifelong pattern of financial oversight from Norman, the subtle undermining from Pamela, the repeated pressure around Caleb's trust fund. I kept it factual, no extra emotion. She listened, pen moving quickly, occasionally asking for clarification on dates or specific conversations. When I finished, she flipped back a page in her notes. I ran preliminary checks after your message last night. Norman and Pamela have not filed a formal guardianship petition yet. However, they've made contact with the family court clerk, submitted an inquiry form, and sent a notice of intent to seek temporary guardianship. Their stated reasons cite concerns over your financial stability and emotional well-being as a single parent following the divorce. I felt the air leave my lungs. They have no grounds. I've supported Caleb completely on my own. Exactly. Which makes this device critical. Rachel tapped the phone screen. This is precisely why they need surveillance to manufacture evidence against you. A recorded argument on a bad day, money worries spoken aloud, anything they can edit or context strip to paint you as unfit. She turned to her computer and pulled up a document. The trust fund factors heavily here. $200,000 from your grandfather, Norman's father, designated solely for Caleb's education with you as sole trustee. If they gain guardianship, even temporary, they get a foot in the door for financial decisions. You've mentioned their past suggestions to borrow from it. Multiple times. Car repairs, house issues, family emergencies. Always framed as short-term, always with promises to repay. That's the angle. Make you appear irresponsible for not utilizing available resources while presenting themselves as the prudent choice. Rachel closed the file. They're in the preparation phase, gathering information, building narrative. No emergency filing means no immediate removal of Caleb, but we can't wait passively. What do we do now? We prepare the counterattack. Document every interaction with them from today forward. Save texts, emails, voicemails. Keep a log of any visitation requests and how they're handled under the current schedule. We'll compile your financial records, steady income bills, paid savings contributions, school reports for Caleb, teacher statements if needed. The device becomes our centerpiece, illegal surveillance by grandparents attempting to undermine parental rights. She handed me a printed checklist. Start collecting these. References from friends, pediatrician notes on Caleb's well-being. The moment they file officially, we respond with our own motion highlighting alienation and privacy violation. With physical evidence like this, judges take it seriously. I folded the list and tucked it into my bag. The coffee had gone cold, but I drank it anyway. For the first time since discovering the device, I felt ground under my feet. Not panic. Purpose. Rachel stood to walk me out. They're expecting hesitation or anger from you. Give them neither. Stay methodical. I will. I meant it. In the elevator down, I watched the numbers descend. They thought they were collecting leverage against me. Instead, they'd given me the strongest weapon possible. A few days later, the weekend arrived, the one where the temporary court order allowed my parents to take Caleb for a few hours to host their own second graduation celebration. Rachel had warned me it would happen unless we had grounds to block it completely. The judge had maintained grandparent visitation rights for now, limited to daytime public places only. Pick up and drop off at a neutral spot. No overnights. I hated every part of it, but I stuck to the letter of the order. Friday evening, I unboxed the smartwatch I'd ordered rush delivery. It looked fun, bright screen games, basic texting, but the real feature was the hidden SOS button. One long press sent an immediate GPS ping to my phone and started recording audio for up to 30 minutes. I called Caleb into the kitchen after dinner. He hopped up on a stool, curious. I slid the watch onto his wrist and adjusted the band. This is important, okay? I said, keeping my tone light but serious. Tomorrow, when you go with Grandpa and Grandma, if anything feels off, if they take you somewhere different than the park we agreed on, or if you just get uncomfortable, press this button here and hold it. He studied the screen. What does it do? It sends me your exact location instantly and lets me hear what's going on. I'll come get you right away. No questions, no trouble. He nodded slowly. Like an emergency thing. Exactly. Only use it if you need me. But don't hesitate. He flexed his arm, testing the fit. It's cool. Feels like a secret agent gadget. I managed a smile. Your own personal backup. Saturday morning came too fast. The meeting spot was the parking lot of a busy mall, cameras everywhere, people around, hard to argue it wasn't public. I arrived 20 minutes early, parked near the entrance, and waited with the engine running. Caleb sat beside me, backpack on his lap, chatting about what he wanted to build first with the Lego set still waiting unopened at home. I listened, nodding, but my eyes stayed on the clock. Their silver SUV pulled in exactly on time. Norman at the wheel, Pamela beside him smiling through the windshield, and Brandy in the back seat leaning forward to wave. Caleb gave me a quick hug, promised to text when he could, and hopped out. I watched him walk over, climb into the back, buckle up. They waved as they drove off toward the exit. The agreed plan was straightforward: quick lunch at a family restaurant, then the big park with playground and picnic areas for games and a small cake. Back by 4 sharp. I went home and tried to stay productive: laundry, emails, anything to keep my hands busy. I checked the watch app every 30 minutes. Normal pings around downtown shops and restaurants. Nothing unusual. Then just past 2, my phone buzzed hard on the counter. Red alert banner. SOS triggered. Live location streaming, moving away from the park route, heading straight to their neighborhood on the outskirts. I didn't think. I grabbed keys, purse, phone, and was in the car before the chime finished. Driving, I dialed 911. The operator answered immediately. I'm reporting a violation of a court-ordered visitation agreement. My son Caleb is with his grandparents under a temporary schedule that requires all activities in public locations. His emergency device just activated, and GPS shows they're taking him to their private home address instead. He's 11 years old. She took the details calmly. Names, case reference, current location feed. I read off the app. Units are being dispatched. Stay on the line if possible, ma'am. I'm en route now. Tell them I'll be there soon. The streets blurred. I stayed under the speed limit just enough not to get pulled over, hands white on the wheel. Every red light felt eternal. I turned onto their street 15 minutes later. 2 patrol cars were already there, parked at the curb, officers standing on the front porch, speaking with someone at the door. I slammed the car into park and ran up the walkway. One officer turned, hand raised cautiously. Ma'am, are you the parent? Yes, Tamara. Is Caleb okay? He's inside unharmed. We're addressing the location violation. The door opened wider. Pamela stood there, hands clasped, looking flustered. Norman behind her, arms crossed. Brandy lingered farther back in the entryway. Then Caleb appeared, backpack slung over one shoulder, watch still on his wrist. His eyes found mine, and he bolted out the door straight to me. I caught him, held him close. He was trembling slightly. They said you couldn't make it and we should just stay here. He whispered against my shoulder. I'm here, I said. Always. The officer took brief statements, reviewed the visitation order on his tablet, confirmed the agreed public locations. Norman started. We only thought the backyard would be nicer for the party. The officer interrupted politely. Sir, the order is clear: public venues only for this period. We'll document the deviation. Pamela tried, voice soft. Officer, it's family. We meant no harm. I didn't engage. I just kept my arm around Caleb. After notes and IDs checked, the officer nodded to me. You can take him home. Report filed. I buckled Caleb in, started the engine. In the mirror, I saw them on the porch. Norman stone-faced, Pamela dabbing her eyes, Brandy looking away. Caleb was silent for the first mile. Then quietly, I pressed it when they kept saying you forgot to come. You did exactly right. We stopped for ice cream on the way home, even though neither of us was hungry. Something normal. The watch had captured everything. And now the police report backed it up. They had crossed the line for good. The officers confirmed the situation on the spot and cleared me to take Caleb home immediately. We drove in relative quiet. Caleb stared out the window, processing. I didn't push him to talk. When we pulled into the driveway, he unbuckled and followed me inside without a word. I locked the door, set his backpack by the stairs, and watched him collapse onto the couch, shoes still on. You want anything, water, snack? He shook his head. Can I just sit here? Take all the time you need. I left him with the TV remote and went to the kitchen table. My phone was still in my hand, the watch app open to the SOS event. The recording icon pulsed red, untouched since the alert. I plugged in earbuds, sat down, and pressed play. The timestamp started the second he pressed the button. Clear as day. Norman's voice came first, low and commanding. Listen carefully, Caleb. When people ask why you spend more time with us, you say your mom has a lot going on and sometimes forgets things. Pamela's tone next, soft and coaxing. It's not lying, honey. Mommy gets stressed and she's not always as stable as she could be. You can tell them that. Brandy jumped in, light, almost playful. Just practice it. Mom forgets to pick me up sometimes, or Mom gets upset and yells. Simple. Norman again. And if the judge ever talks to you directly, you say you'd feel safer and happier with more time at Grandpa and Grandma's house. Pamela. We can give you the structure you need. Tell them you'd like that. The recording went on, more coaching, gentle repetition, small corrections when Caleb hesitated. His voice small and unsure at first, repeating the phrases they fed him. Mom forgets. Mom's not stable. I stopped it halfway, hands shaking now. I exported the file to my cloud storage, downloaded a local copy to my laptop, uploaded a third to a secure drive. Then I emailed the original with full timestamp and metadata to Rachel Dunn. Subject: audio evidence from today's visitation violation. Urgent. Her response pinged back fast. Got it. Downloading now. Do not delete or alter. We'll discuss strategy tomorrow morning. I set the phone down and looked toward the living room. Caleb had fallen asleep on the couch, one arm dangling off the edge. Evening turned to night. The doorbell rang just after 7. I checked the peephole, Alicia standing there with a pizza box in one hand and a grocery bag in the other. I let her in. She hugged me tight. No words needed at first. I came as soon as I got your message. How's Caleb? Asleep on the couch. He's okay physically. She glanced over, face softening. Let him rest. We'll talk. We took the pizza to the kitchen. Alicia set it down and pulled out her laptop from her bag. Show me what you have so far. I played the recording for her, volume low. Her expression hardened with every word from Norman, Pamela, and Brandy. When it ended, she exhaled sharply. This is coaching. Straight up alienation. I know. Rachel has it now. Good. But we need the full picture. Alicia opened her email and text archives on her screen. I've kept everything too. Let's pull it all together. We worked side by side for hours. I pulled up old threads from my phone and computer, emails from Norman, demanding access to Caleb's savings statements for tax purposes, texts from Pamela after every minor school issue suggesting a longer stay with us would help him focus. Brandy's messages were more recent, casual but pointed photos of fun family dinners, with captions like, "Wish Caleb was here more often," followed by questions about the trust fund balance. Alicia found a chain from 2 years back where Norman sent investment advice for the trust, insisting I move it to an account he could monitor. When I refused, Pamela followed up with, "We're only trying to protect Caleb's future." We printed the key exchanges, highlighted dates and phrases showing the pattern: financial pressure, parenting doubt, repeated attempts to insert themselves into decisions. By midnight, we had digital folders organized by year and type, physical printouts stacked neatly. Everything searchable, time-stamped, ready for Rachel. Alicia closed her laptop. This shows years of buildup, not a one-off. Exactly. She stayed the night in the guest room. Caleb stirred once around 2 a.m., came padding into the kitchen for water. I met him there, gave him a glass, rubbed his back. Bad dream. Just thirsty. Go back to sleep. I'm right here. He nodded and shuffled to the couch again. I returned to the table, stared at the folders. The audio was the smoking gun. The history was the motive. They had scripted my son to betray me. But now every word was recorded. Every attempt documented. And we were far from done building the case. 2 months later, the full hearing unfolded in the family courthouse in downtown Indianapolis. The building was familiar by now. Security check echoing hallways, the quiet tension of people waiting for their cases to be called. I arrived early, dressed simply but professionally, Rachel Dunn at my side, carrying a thick binder. Caleb was at school. The judge had ruled he didn't need to be present for this. We took our seats at the petitioner's table. Across the aisle, Norman, Pamela, and Brandy sat with their lawyer, a man in a gray suit who kept shuffling papers. They avoided eye contact with me. The judge entered, a no-nonsense woman with reading glasses perched on her nose. She reviewed the file briefly, then opened the proceedings. Rachel went first, laying out our position calmly and methodically. She started with the device from the Lego set. The forensic report was entered as Exhibit A, professional analysis confirming it was a post-manufacture edition capable of real-time audio transmission and GPS tracking. Chain of custody documented from my sealed bag to the lab. Next came the watch recording. Rachel played key segments in open court, the timestamps visible on screen. Norman's direct instructions, Pamela's persuasive tone, Brandy's light encouragement. All three guiding Caleb to memorize and repeat phrases designed to portray me as forgetful and emotionally unstable. The judge listened intently, occasionally pausing the playback to make notes. Then, the communication history. Rachel displayed projected screenshots, years of emails from Norman, requesting financial details, texts from Pamela, questioning my parenting choices after every small issue, messages from Brandy, referencing the trust fund as a resource the family should utilize wisely. Patterns highlighted repeated attempts to access accounts, insinuations of inadequacy, suggestions that Caleb would benefit from more time under their care. Rachel connected the dots. This wasn't isolated overprotectiveness. It was a sustained campaign of control, culminating in illegal surveillance and direct coaching of a child to provide scripted statements against his primary caregiver. Their attorney argued grandparents' rights, concern for the child's well-being, lack of intent to harm. He tried to downplay the device as a safety tool and the recording as misunderstood guidance. But the evidence was concrete, physical, recorded, time-stamped. Closing statements were short. Rachel emphasized the deliberate coordination, planning the surveillance, violating visitation terms to create opportunity, coaching specific language for potential court use, all aimed at gaining influence over Caleb and his protected trust fund. The judge recessed for deliberation. We waited in the hallway. Rachel reviewed notes. I drank bad coffee from the vending machine. Less than an hour later, we were called back in. The judge spoke clearly from the bench. The evidence presented demonstrates a pattern of behavior that goes beyond reasonable grandparent concern. The installation of an unauthorized surveillance device in a child's gift, the violation of court-ordered visitation parameters, and the recorded coaching of the minor to make negative statements about the petitioner constitute serious interference with parental rights. This is not a single decision made in haste. This is a coordinated plan with systematic steps designed to undermine the mother's custody and gain access to the child's financial resources. Such actions amount to parental alienation and present a clear risk to the child's psychological health. She denied the petition for guardianship in full. I was granted sole legal and physical custody, exclusive decision-making authority, no required consultation with extended family. Restraining orders were issued immediately against Norman, Pamela, and Brandy. No direct or indirect contact with Caleb, including phone calls, messages, social media, or approaching within 500 feet of his homeschool or activities. Any violation would trigger contempt proceedings. The trust fund remained under my sole control as trustee, untouched and protected for Caleb's future. Court adjourned. I walked out into the bright afternoon light, feeling lighter than I had in years. The practical fallout was swift and permanent. I blocked every known number and email associated with them that same day, updated emergency contacts at school and the pediatrician, changed a few online accounts just in case. 3 weeks later, we moved to a new house in a different neighborhood, still the same school boundaries for continuity, but far enough for a clean break. New paint on the walls, new routines. Caleb picked his own bedroom color. He bounced back steadily. The first month he had occasional questions. Will I ever see Grandma again? But therapy sessions helped him process the confusion. By the second month, he was building elaborate Lego creations without hesitation, inviting friends over, talking about middle school tryouts. The trust fund continued growing quietly in its conservative investments, waiting for whatever college or path he chose down the line. No more unexpected knocks at the door, no more loaded holiday invitations, no more veiled comments about money or parenting. The silence from that side was absolute, and it remained that way. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty for cutting off my own blood relatives. The answer is simple: no. Not when the alternative was allowing gradual erosion of my son's trust and security. Because here's the truth I learned through all this. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones capable of the deepest damage. Protecting your child can require severing those ties completely. No halfway measures, no lingering hope for change. And the greatest tools you have in that fight are solid evidence and the legal system. Gather everything. Document relentlessly. Trust the process. If you're in a similar situation, know you're not alone. Stand firm. The law can protect you when family won't.